Hey everyone, greetings and salutations. This is Tribal Tea Talk. Welcome, and we're happy to be in your polite company again. Not a very polite topic, as we've been saying before. We have been delving into the world food crisis. It's worse than any horror story. It really is. But we have to analyze it, and as tribal people, we have to try to become abreast of what is happening. As the first people of Earth, we have to really figure out what our strategy will be. So let us figure out what the problems are. We have this article here
From World
from
Vision,
World Vision. It's
and
a
it's a Canadian
Canadian,
source.
Canadian news company, and we're going to be going down into the understanding of what a food crisis is. It's a very long article. We'll be posting the link so you can look at it, but we're just going to be getting down into the main issues.
So, firstly, under understanding food crisis. Food crisis is a situation in which food circumstances drastically worsen within a short period. It gripped at least 155 million people in 2020, with most in just 10 countries. Violent conflict was a key driver, with extreme weather events and economic shocks also playing a role. In 2020, 2 out of 3 people facing acute food insecurity lived in Africa. Food crisis is not the same as chronic hunger or food instability, though they are often interlinked. What makes food crisis unique is the rapidity of the worsening situation. Across countries and regions, entire communities may be catapulted from struggling to starving in a matter of months. By the time a food crisis is officially declared in a region, thousands of families may have already lost their livelihoods and exhausted their savings. Malnutrition is on the rise. There's no time left for the global community to consider creative ways to help people build resilience. The world must act quickly to prevent widespread destruction of livelihoods and death.
Yeah, and they say the world, but listen, this has to start. Our response to this issue has to start from at home. If we remember some of the first lessons at school, is telling you that your home, your family is a primary place of socialization. Primary place that you're gonna learn all of your life skills is your home. So people, let us try from our yard. Let us try with our little brother, little sister, little cousin, our children. Let us try as a whole family. If you see like everybody else is dragging their feet, you run out and do it yourself. Whatever it is, right? We need to get cracking. Well, let's go a bit deeper.
So, now we're going to go into the phases of food insecurity classification, and this is how food crisis might look for communities according to the integrated food security phase classification system. So, phase 1 is stable. Now, at this stage, families in a community can meet essential food needs along with non food needs like medicine and house repairs. They are relatively self sufficient. In the world's most fragile regions, though, millions of communities haven't enjoyed this kind of stability for generations.
So, stable is when you know that okay, tonight I'm going to have curry chicken and rice for dinner. I'm gonna have some kalalo for dinner. When you know what you're gonna eat and you're pretty sure that you're going to eat. Stable also tells us that if you're sick, something is wrong with you, you don't know what it is, you're able to go to the doctor, you're able to get whatever medication that is prescribed, right? And that if something happens to your house, let's say a hurricane rolls around or your house is a bit old, you can make some repairs on it. That's stable.
Phase 2, stressed. At this stage, many families have the minimum in food staples, but they may not be able to afford essentials like medicine, shelter repairs, school fees, or the upkeep of livestock. Some people are already selling their more disposable assets. In countries like South Sudan, Afghanistan, and Venezuela, millions of families were already in the stressed or even crisis phases when COVID 19 hit.
So stressed is not just, if it is, oh, I'm feeling a bit stressed. Stress today concerning a food crisis would be, wow, I really don't know what I'm going to eat tonight. I may have eaten something last night, I maybe had some tea this morning, but it's not looking good. And, many of us are sick, and we're not quite sure how we're going to get to the doctor. And, oh my, there was some heavy rains, the roof got damaged, or we just have to live and see what happens. We definitely can't fix that right now. That's stress.
Phase 3, crisis. At this stage, the UN declares a food crisis. In large areas of a country, families would be making decisions which affect their ability to feed their families. Acute malnutrition begins to increase. Families often sell essential livelihood assets like oxen or sewing machines. Some might consider marriage for their daughters, even those barely into their teens. Members of a family may migrate in search of food or work. In 2022, the annual Global Report on Food Crisis highlighted the remarkably high number of people at the crisis stage, or worse. It was the highest such number in the report's 6-year history. The nations forecasted to be in crisis or worse stages in 2022 include the Democratic Republic of Congo, Afghanistan, Nigeria, Yemen, Ethiopia, South Sudan, Somalia, Sudan, Pakistan, Haiti, and Kenya.
So crisis is where the Jamaican might use the term, colloquial term, des. Things get desperate, things getting rough now. We have to make some pretty critical decisions. We have this family heirloom. You have that old singer sewing machine that has been passed down. Why, this man been driving around buying antiques, we're going to have to sell it because food is a problem. You know, it's terrible, but some families may have that beautiful daughter and they say, oh, the big man down the road, that big man down the road, really likes you. So, go and talk to him, no man, go and talk to him, and, he might give some money, maybe give we some money too, so we can put on a pot. Is this we have to do? Boy, we have some gold jewelry in the house from grandma, people driving around for cash for gold and thing. Boy, we just have a part with it, because we can't even wear it on the road the way things set, because somebody just going to snatch your chain, you know, stick you up. You can't wear anything like gold, so might as well we just sell it because we need food. That's crisis.
Phase 4, emergency. At this stage, in most communities within a country, families' access to food is so drastically compromised that acute malnutrition soars. Deaths increase from malnutrition related illnesses. Often, food can be acquired only through drastic measures like selling property, entering prostitution, or selling a daughter into marriage. In 2022, just 7 countries accounted for two-thirds of all people facing this degree of food insecurity globally. The 7 countries were the Democratic Republic of Congo, Afghanistan, Syria, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Zimbabwe, and Haiti. Within these nations, millions of people face malnutrition, starvation, and death.
Here in Jamaica, we're not quite at the emergency level. Well, I don't think that we've passed crisis, and I don't think that it's enough of the country to call it a national crisis. But we know that there are families, and we're constantly praying to the Most High Creator for them. That there are families that are in that crisis mode. But emergency is the sort of thing that unfortunately we see on the news, we see on TV. It burns my heart that it really burns my heart as a Jamaican to read these kinds of lists and see that my brothers and sisters in Haiti are in this position of emergency. And at this point in time, Tribal Tea Talk, we'd like to make it clear to our people that it is our hope and desire not just to help ourselves. This is not about us alone, but we love to be in a position where we could even offer some advice to our brothers and sisters in Haiti and other places in the world, but Haiti, they are our flesh and blood. Let's continue.
Phase 5: Catastrophe or Famine. At this stage, families are out of options throughout most of the country. People have taken every measure they can to raise funds or secure food, but there is a total lack of food. Starvation, death, destitution, and extremely critical acute malnutrition levels are clearly evident. In May 2022, the UN warned that millions of people in Somalia could face famine within months. They noted that 49 million people in 43 countries were just one step away from famine. And for famine classification, an entire area needs to have extreme critical levels of acute malnutrition and mortality. Now, we're going to look at food crises around the world, and these are the countries. 1. Democratic Republic of Congo with 27.2 million people, Afghanistan with 22.8 million people, Ethiopia with 16.8 million people, Yemen with 16.2 million people, Nigeria with 12.9 million people, Syria with 12 million people, Sudan with 9.8 million people, South Sudan with 7.2 million people, Pakistan with 4.7 million people, and Haiti with 4.4 million people. Now, we're going to go into how a food crisis hurts women and children. Now, a few other ways that it can hurt women and children is that: 1. Children can lose a parent or a caregiver to malnutrition or illness, increasing poverty within the family. In this case, children are often called on to assume adult roles, such as dropping out of school to work or raising younger siblings. 2. Children's families can be forced to migrate in search of work or food, cutting off children from community support and protection. 3.
And just to stick up in there, just touching into our local situation in Jamaica, we know that that is a phenomenon that sociologists here in Jamaica call barrel children, or number two, where it maybe Jamaica has been in and out of this sort of crisis or emergency phase for a long time. But I would say that this is a long time phenomenon where maybe a mother or somebody like that would migrate and leave her children behind and leave them with the grandmother or so, and be sending barrels, as they would say, with goods and things, clothes, shoes, that sort of thing. So this is something that is close to home for us as well.
3. Children can be sent out to work to help put food on the table. Often they are drastically underpaid to do work that's degrading or very dangerous. Having left school, it's often impossible to catch up, and this affects a child's prospects for a lifetime. 4. Girls can be forced into early marriage for a dowry to help feed her other family members. COVID-19 has exacerbated this tragic situation. Child brides can face a lifetime of abuse and poverty, as well as the threat of death from early childbirth. And also, when it comes on to women and girls in a food crisis, women and girls are more likely to be hurt by food shortage as they experience hunger and malnutrition disproportionately. In many regions, a woman or girl is often expected to eat last, least, and poorer quality food, and that's when food is available. Imagine how this plays out when food is scarce. Women and girls as a group are more drastically affected by micronutrient deficiencies than are men and boys. For example, anemia is a leading cause of death for pregnant teenage girls. And girls forced into marriage may have little say as to whether they receive nutritious foods and when they become pregnant. This increases the risk for both mother and baby. So, this article, it just really delves in, especially how the food crisis affects children and women as vulnerable groups in our society. And, especially in these countries, some of them, in women, they have little body autonomy, they have little say over, especially child rearing, and this affects them in terms of their freedom and overall their well-being and happiness.
And just to put something there, because it's a real sore spot for us as First Peoples, Indigenous peoples, and tribal peoples, because women women are the backbone of most tribal societies, in that it is a woman that carries particular traditions and particular knowledge that is almost a mystery to men. And in many indigenous groups, women have somewhat of a secret society to themselves. So even in a lot of these regions, this also puts at risk these very precious cultures. This food crisis is very, very threatening to many, many things that we hold dear to ourselves as a people of the earth. And so we must figure out now, as indigenous people, how are we going to protect our women? In Jamaica, we do have an issue where we may not be talking about child marriage and all of that, but you know, that big man down the road issue, that beautiful daughter in the family issue, and the big man down the road liking the beautiful daughter. I don't have to go down into it. You guys know all about it, I'm pretty sure. Everybody has heard about it from your Jamaican, right? So we know tribal tea talk, and you know, in our families here, in our friend circles, we are now working assiduously to figure out how can we do more outreach in our communities, how can we through agriculture try to make our people better. This is our focus, and we're going to be giving the food crisis a bit of a break right now to speak on other very important societal topics. This has been a very bumpy ride for us, exploring the food shortage and the food crisis situation. It has been very painful, right? But it is eye opening, and we simply have to make do with the situation and survive and thrive in this situation. And the only way we can do this is by getting back to the earth, by getting back to ancestral methods. So, we hope that this has been informative. We hope that you have learned a lot about the current situation and what the most pressing situation we have currently right now facing as humanity. This is not just Haiti, this is not just Nigeria, Yemen. This is a problem for humanity. So, we're going to be leaving on that note, a note of deep introspection and thought, because we have to come together now, heart, hands, and minds, to find that solution. This has been Tribal Tea Talk, and we hope that you have found it informative. You guys be safe and well, and we hope that we can continue to be that source of knowledge.
And if you guys are still with us, please hit the subscribe button, like, comment, and share with your friends and family. Thank you.